Pai, hey, Bhavatoria, Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Padmavakya chitte te koya agya Padmavakya chitte koya agya Anako yomane asha Prabhu se Chakudana dilo ye Jamme jamme Prabhu se Divya Gyani Dre Prakashito Divya Gyani Dre Prakashito Prema Bhaktiya Hoite Avidya Vinashayate Prema Bhaktiya Hoite Avidya Vinashayate Bandi Lokanath Lokera Jiva Maha Prabhu Koro Daya Deha More Padachaya Tribhuvana Ideyashi Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhu. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Saraswate Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Hastyata Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gaura Bhakta Jai Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Vishnupad Paramahamsapad Jagacharya Astu Sri Srimad Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, ISKCON Srila Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Hari Das Ki Jai, Sri
Haribo. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Hare Bol. Jaya Gopi Jana
Radhamadava Kunjabihari Radhamadava Kunjabihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girbadadari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girbadadari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Nana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Ma'am Vishnubaraya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Itinami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachanine Nervasesha Sunyavadi Pasyasya Desatarnine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 4, Text 29. 28 and 29? Okay, both. 28 and 29.
But the 29 is on the board.
Yeah, okay. Sukadeva Goswami continued, thus having been addressed in purity by Devaki and Vasudeva, who were very much appeased, Kamsa felt pleased, and with their permission, he entered his home. Tasyam Ratayam Ratirayam Kam Sa Ahudyam Manatrinaya Tebayat Kasyat Sarvavam Yat Uttam Yoga Nidraya Tasyam Ratyam Vritatyayam Kamsa Atyat Mana Trinaya Teboya Kastra Tat Swarkam Yatikam Yoga Nidrayad Nidraya Tasyam Natyam Vidratidhyayam Kamsa Abhuyam Mantrit Naryaha tasya tat sarvat yam yat uttam yoga nidraya tasyam nityam After that night passed, Kamsa summoned his ministers and informed them of all that had been spoken by Yogamaya, who had revealed that he was to slay Kamsa, had already been born somewhere else. Let's read from the beginning. Sukadeva Goswami continued, thus having been addressed in purity by Devaki and Vasudeva, who were very much pleased, Kamsa felt pleased, and with their permission he entered his home. After that night passed, Kamsa summoned his ministers and informed them of all that had been spoken by Yogamaya, who had revealed that he was to slay Kamsa, had already been born somewhere else. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Vanchakopa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Bhavibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Maha. The Vedic scriptures Chandi described Maya, the energy of the Supreme Lord, as Nitya, Durga Devi, Sarva Bhuteshu, Nidra Rupini, Samasritaha. The energy of Yogamaya and Mahamaya keeps the living entities sleeping in this material world, and in the great darkness of ignorance. Yogamaya, the goddess Durga, kept Kamsa in darkness about Krishna's birth, and misled him to believe that his energy, Krishna, had been born elsewhere. Krishna was born the son of Devaki, but according to the Lord's original plan, as prophesied to Brahma, he went to Vrindavan to give pleasure to Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj and other intimate friends and devotees of for 11 years. Then he would return to kill Kamsa. Because Kamsa did not know this, he believed Yogamaya's statement that Krishna had been born elsewhere, not in Dwarka. So here we see that Krishna has come to Vrindavan. Why has he come? To please Nanda and Yasoda. Because they are Krishna's, they are the eternal servants of Krishna in parental love. So they have a very ultimate, very, very high type of form of relationship with Krishna, with this pure type of love. And Krishna loves them so much, just like we love our parents. When we're children, everywhere we go, we're looking to our parents to show us direction. And we like to perform before our parents, and our parents like to laugh, and we dance and hold our hands up, and parents like this, and the children like the parents. So this type of relationship Krishna had with Nanda and Yasoda. And that time, the Vrindavan was very, very pure. There was no contamination of demons. The demons were all up in Mathura with Kamsa. Kamsa, he had bad association. So he kept association of people who were meat eaters, took intoxication, and actually informed in types of sacrifice of babies. Killing babies or animals, cows, everything they killed. There was nothing pious about them. And Kamsa, although born in a family of the Yadu dynasty, because of his association, he forgot all that and he became politically wrapped up in the whole situation, just like you see today with modern politicians. They have some very good background feelings, like Tulsi Gabbard, for said. We were studying Tulsi Gabbard's campaign. Tulsi Gabbard is a disciple of our god brother Siddha Sarup. And Siddha Sarup Prabhu, he had his own idea of how to preach Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada told us that because he's chanting, we encourage him. But he didn't completely agree with the way Siddha Sarup did things, but Siddha Sarup got things happening. He did things that no one could do. He had some type of a Shakti that no one in the movement possessed. When I first went to Hong Kong in the end of 1980, we had heard that he was on television in the Philippines. He had his own station where he would teach people how to chant Hare Krishna. He would teach them how to do yoga exercise. And he was on, I think, 3 times a week. So you can imagine if someone's coming on 3 times a week on national television, everybody knows who he is. And he was chanting Hare Krishna also. So by the time that the ISKCON actually became established in the Philippines, people already knew Hare Krishna. They already knew it. So he actually broke the ground for us. And then we came in and Srila Prabhupada, he said, well, we just encourage him. But because he was a little proud, he would tell his godbrothers, you don't know how to do, I know how to do. So that there was a big friction amongst each other. I heard he only went to one Mayapur festival, and when he went to that Mayapur festival, there was a big, big disturbance. So when Chamal Krishna Maharaj, he sent me to go to Hong Kong, I had shown some interest. I had told him before, I said, Maharaj, I see the GBC have now made you GBC of Hong Kong with Guru Kripa, and also Korea, and also China. And he said, yes. He said, so I said, I'm interested to go with you to Hong Kong if you go to Hong Kong. And he said, well, maybe you can help me. I'm not sure. So then after that, he was sent to Chicago. And when he was sent to Chicago, there were some things that went on in Chicago. One devotee killed himself, Gopi Janaballabha. He accidentally became very confused about his devotional service, how the devotees were selling, how we were selling records and not going out and just doing Hari Nam like we had done in Radha Damodar. So he felt like he was breaking vows or something like this, selling paraphernalia. Maha Mantra Maharaj was the pujari for the Radha Nitagore Natharaj, which were there in St. Louis. Bhima Prabhu, who's now in charge of the Bombay Temple, he was there, and Makunlal was the temple president. Makunlal, we called him Makunlal, but his name was Makunlal, but we never called him Makunlal. We called him Makunlal. So Makunlal was always working, very working very hard. He could hardly take prasadam. And when we had the greeting of the deities, he would pay his obeisances in front of the deities, and then we'd all stand up and he'd be asleep in front of the deities. Because when he did his obeisances, he fell asleep. He had worked so hard. So then finally we would pick him up. So anyway, I had traveled with him. I don't want to get lost and try to keep it focused a little bit towards this verse. So we were trying to purify ISKCON, and we tried the best way we knew how. And here the cowherd boys and Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj, they're grazing along the sides of the Jamuna River. But the Jamuna River is just about to have something very horrible happen to it. Is the Kaliya serpent's going to come, and he's going to breathe poison into the whole atmosphere, and all along the banks, the cowherd boys are going to breathe it, and they're going to fall asleep. They're going to pass out because of the poisonous fumes. So we also had something like this, but in our mundane type of service to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada put us through so many things. When Goswami he finally came. We sent us first a month or so ahead with myself and one devotee from Australia. His name was Ram Sharan, and Ram Sharan passed away on Nirjala Ekadasi. It'll be 3 years this year on Nirjala Ekadasi. And the night before he passed away, I was texting him, and he sent me a picture of Radha Krishna Sakhi, Krishna entwined, Radha Krishna entwined. And he told me, he said, I'm looking at this picture of Radha Krishna Sakhi, and I know that wherever I go, they will be with me. They will protect me. So I'm not afraid. Because I had seen him a year before. He told me he had cancer. I think I'd seen him 3 months before. He told me he had cancer. He didn't know. He said he didn't think it was going to happen because it wasn't in his horoscope. He wasn't supposed to get it. According to his horoscope, he was not going to get any he was going to live to be 80 or something. And then when he got it, he said, I understand that horoscopes aren't actually perfect. You may have a horoscope, but Krishna may have his different plans. So we sat and we discussed at some type of in the metro, in the subway, sitting down at some Starbucks. We just sat there and talked, and then finally we said goodbye, and then I never saw him again. I didn't think that I'd never see him again, but I see him sometimes, not often, but sometimes I do see him in dreams. So he set up this painting business and the painting business supported the BBT, the publishing of books for China, the publishing of the Bhagavad Gita. Tamal Krishna Maharaj had gotten $10,000 from Jayatirtha after the Bhagavad Gita was printed. But when we first got there, there was just the devotee who had, there was a devotee named Jita Radhi. And Jitarati was there at the time of Siddha Sarup, and he was also, had supported the temple since the first devotee was there, was Sevananda, was sent, and Bali Mardan even before him, and then Hari Vilas came. So there's different waves of devotees came to try to break China open, and by doing preaching in Hong Kong. But really, Tamal Krishna Maharaj had the real plan, because he was expert at making new people. He was expert at setting up places and keeping them going and figuring out how to get money to come in to keep the program going. So he had, one day he said, Pita, today I want you to come with me. You know, we're going to go to the printers, and I want you to see this. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, I don't know. I'm just like 26 years old. I'm just thinking, you know, yeah, he likes me. You know, Maharaj likes me. But Maharaj already had a whole plan, and the plan was for me to go to the publishers, meet the publisher know who I am, and then tell me to watch the presses when the presses started to go. Because if you don't watch the press, the workers speed it up and they try to get the run, they call it the run of books, finished quickly. But if you, he said every 15 minutes you get up and you stop the press, you go over and pick up the piece of paper and and you look and hold it up at the light, like you can see if there's any mistake in smearing. The letters have to all be perfect, because if they speed it up, sometimes one page will be upside down, another page will have blotched letters, you know, and then you have to pay for it and it goes into the book all messed up. So I did this. I had no idea what I was doing. And then at the end, Goswami said, now I want you to go back to the publishers 1 week later, get the book. I want you to mail it to me to Mayapur immediately for the GBC meetings. So he was sent to China, and in 1 month he came to the GBC with a printed Bhagavad Gita and handed it to them. And they went, wow, this guy, who is he? He is some type of, how does he get this power? Because Maharaj, he was from New York. He knew how to work things very well. And he told me once, he said, when I was in New York, I could decide which side of the street. I could get beat up every day. The only thing I could decide of if I got beat up by Mexicans or I got beat up by Chinese. He says, because of what side of the street I walked on, you know. He said, but every time I went home, I got really hard. He said, so, you know, excuse me, now we're living together. I may be a kind of, you know, hard to live with, but, you know, you'll get to know me, because here we're going to be close, and we're all in a room this size, you know, for every day. Just like now, you can't leave the house. We couldn't leave that room very much. You go outside and you just smell these horrible smells. And the people would say, look at you, point at you. And the smell of the train going by was filled with pig feces, because the trains were coming in from China, and they would go right under the apartment, and the smell of this would come into the room. And, oh my God, we'd close the windows. We'd all run and close the windows because we heard the train coming. Sometimes you didn't get the windows closed, and then Goswami said, oh my God, why didn't you close the windows? And the place was very hot, and when you closed the windows, it got even hotter, but it didn't matter. You had to close the windows when that train went by, and keep them closed for at least 15, 20 minutes, because it took a long time for the smell to go back down. We were up like the 6th floor, or something like that, 4th floor. The Chinese don't want to live on the 4th floor because it says silo. Si means death. So 4th floors are always empty. There's always Indians or foreigners living on the 4th floor. Chinese, they buy a 4th floor. They never live in it themselves because it's silo. It means death. So to them, that is unlucky. They're very much into luck, you know. If it's not lucky, they don't know. Not lucky. Silo. They don't want. I'll rent it. I'll keep the money. They call it eat the rent. I'll eat the rent, but I will not live in the place. So Maharaj, he said, so he was walking up and down the street, chanting his japa he didn't walk on the main street. He would walk down the street where all the rich people live, where all the rich Indians live. Because this neighborhood had very rich people, but off the road and up the hill. So if you walked up the hill, there was the rich people, and he would chant his rounds like here, and he would walk up the hill for exercise, with his japa beads, and he'd go out there and he would chant for an hour and a half going up. And I was up there, this really rich man looked out his window and saw this sannyasi walking with beads, and he went right down and said, "Oh, Maharaj, Hare Krishna, please, namaste, whatever what he said. Please come in. And his mother, the mother of the man, fed Maharaj a big, giant dinner. Maharaj came back and said, "Wow, I just had a huge dinner. I'm not interested in lunch today." So he said, that man, he said that he has to go to China. And he invited me to go with him. Can you believe this? I'm just here 1 week and all of a sudden someone invites me to go to China. And he's an Indian man and he's from Pakistan. And when the partition happened, his family all came here. And he knows the Hari Leelas, and the Hari Leelas are like, they own the Holiday Inn, they own every tailor shop. They have an area of like 6 blocks in Hong Kong still today, with all their families live in it, like 5, they call it a joint family. All the families live together, and they have a Radha Krishna temple in the family. And every day the mother tells everyone in the family they have to come and take darshan. No matter what they do, before they do anything, they have to take darshan. Then they go to the Holiday Inn, they go to whatever, sell their meat, whatever they were doing. So he knew these people because they were neighbors, and those people got a lot of money from the Japanese during the war, and then all the money was left in their bank, and they kept it. So Mr. Arjun, he also had a lot of money from that Japanese money. So he said, now I have to close my factories in Hong Kong because everything's going into China. I can't compete. I'm doing dress shirts, and so I'm going to take you to where you're going to give us some land for the factory. So we're going in. We had to act like businessmen. He said, but I'm also going to ask them about a restaurant because the restaurant's connected to this Buddhist temple. And you can come along with me. So Maharaj he went out and bought 2 pairs of suits. He said he wanted one for business and he wanted one for casual. So the business suit was like a dark blue with like black leather shoes, and he said he came and he ordered it at the tailor, and then it just arrived at the apartment, and I was sitting there doing nothing because there was nothing to do. And I sat there. I would do the offering and do worship Satbush Garanga. We had a picture of Satbush Garanga. And I would make offering. I would cook I would cook an offering for them. I would make the lunch. So Maharaj says, today, he said, so I ordered this clothes. So the clothes showed up and he had this blue suit on. And he said, how do I like this blue suit? And I said, yeah, it's pretty nice. I said, you look like a tycoon. He goes, yeah, tycoon. That's what I like, tycoon. I had to look like a tycoon because I'm going with guys that are very rich. And he said, I got another one for casual. And he went and he had this tan suit. He called it trope. I have a trope suit. And he had red crocodile shoes, like red crocodile, and it was real crocodile. And I said, Maharaj, that's real crocodile. He said, yeah, it's real crocodile. You gotta dress the part, I can't put on canvas shoes. They'll think I'm crazy. So he came out and he said, what do you think of this? And I said, yes, that's also tycoon, but a casual tycoon. And he laughed. He said, yeah. So then he went with this man to China. And when he left, all he had was some sponge bread. He took some sponge bread with him, and he took some carrots and some celery and some avocados, whatever he could get into a bag. And then he went into China, and he told us later that there was nothing to eat in China. They would use their position because they were dignitaries, and there was nothing to eat In those days, the Chinese had to all go to like soup kitchens and get their food by according to their job. If their job was, they weren't allowed to cook at home. They weren't allowed to buy vegetables. So when the authorities were able to throw a feast, they threw a feast for themselves, not so much for their guests. And they told them, well, we're vegetarians. And the man said, well, we'll have vegetarian food for you. So Maharaj said, when he got there, everything was meat. I mean, he said there was fish, there was chicken, there was pheasant, there was duck, there was, things that he didn't even know what they were. And so he said, all they gave him a bowl of rice, and the rice was cooked separately. It's just a bowl of rice. So Maharaj said, we ate the rice and the bread right in front of them. So they laughed. They said, oh, so many things you should eat. And they would take the birds and eat. They take these baby birds in China. Still today, you see it everywhere. And they kill the baby birds, the songbirds, and then they cure them, and they look like candy, and they put them on some type of a shish kebab, and they barbecue it on the street, and they eat it. Like really pretty girls would be eating these little birds. So Maharaj, he was really kind of like, oh my God, what am I doing? How am I going to tolerate this? So he said, we just won't eat, we just eat this bread, and so the man said, you're not eating much. What is this? You don't eat meat, fish, or eggs? And Maharaj says, yeah, we don't eat meat, fish, or eggs. Onions or garlic, we don't even eat. So the man said, oh, I have just the thing for you. We've made it special for you. No meat, no fish, no eggs, no onions, no garlic. And they handed him a plate with like pudding, and it was decorated, and it was like come out of a mold, and he said it was purple. And he said, he looked at it and he was like, oh, they say it's no meat or fish or anything. He's just about to pick it up. He picked up and he says, what's in this? And they go, 100% grasshopper. 100% grasshopper. They had taken grasshoppers and they had ground them up and they had put them into a mold and they made a paste. So Maharaj said, thank you. And then the next thing they went was they took them to the Buddhist temple because they wanted to open a vegetarian restaurant. So to the Buddhist temple, but the temple is not yours. That's run by the state. We have an old lady who's taking care of these deities throughout the whole Cultural Revolution. She's still there. She's an old woman. So when he comes with the Indian man can speak Cantonese and he's Indian. So the woman thinks she thinks he's Chinese because he can speak fluent Cantonese. And then Maharaj, he says, oh, this is the Guailo, means the foreign devil. He said, the foreign devil is disturbing the Buddha. So Maharaj went up to the Buddha and he said, no, I'm not disturbing the Buddha. The Buddha is disturbed, but not by me. Then they all went back, and that was the story. That was the story of his first trip to China. And that man, Mr. Arjun, he eventually paid for the deities in Houston. The deities in Houston were purchased by Mr. Arjun. And then his Chinese wife took all of his money. She said, you're senile. You are giving so much money to temple. Now we put you in a mental institution and we control the money. So he's been he also went to see Sridhar Maharaj in Navadvip and listened to him for a few weeks, and then he was also criticizing ISKCON like crazy, and and Goswami he thought, well, what am I going to do? The guy's giving me a lot of money. We all went to see Sridhar Maharaj, but we can't. We're still a society. We're under Srila Prabhupada. He's Prabhupada is our guru. We don't. It's just like when I was a child. I was sometimes sent to my aunt's house because they were too busy. My father got ill and there was no place, so they would send me over there. But I never felt I was at home. I always knew I'm at my aunt's house. I'm not at my home. So anytime I visit Sridhar Maharaj's temple, which I love, very beautiful deities, and I met him a couple of times, but I never feel home. I only feel home in ISKCON. Because ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada wants us to be like this. You know, we can offer them respects, but we don't have to surrender to their mat. So I guess that's about as much as for today. If there's any questions or comments about what I said.
So there was a time there was a temple in China?
They have temples now in China, but they're not official. But some devotees have become quite rich in China. Some rich people in the Communist Party have become initiated disciples. And they have, I know that in Beijing, they have the Sheraton Hotel. They have the whole, I think it's the 10th floor, they have the whole 10th floor. And this devotee, the yoga program it's an exercise, you know, where you can take sauna and you can get massage and you can do health, you can do exercise, you can do yoga. So the devotees come for the yoga section. They come in dhotis and everything. And they tie up their dhotis, you know, like they do in Mayapur, and they teach the hatha yoga, the different types of pressuring and stuff, and then they chant Hare Krishna. So the government knows that we are who we are and that what we're doing there, but they say just tone it down, don't spread it around. We accept what you say because they're all into Vedas right now.
Wow.
The Chinese are into what Rig Veda they call it, Rig Veda, and so we've had Srila Prabhupada's books all translated into Chinese using the those apps that translate English to language, and then a Chinese lady, she's from Beijing, she went through and she made it sure that she edited the whole book. She's a disciple of Goswami Maharaj. She's like one of the most important preachers that we have in China, is this lady. And and then the Chinese government accepted it, and they had a meeting with the Indian embassy, because the Indian embassy was just being established. And there's pictures of her handing the Bhagavatam. She translated the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, Ishopanishad, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's all been translated completely into Chinese. And Satyanarayan and Jita Radhi are printing in India and in China. In India and in China they're printing. And they're distributing not to temples so much, but to individual devotees because they don't want to interfere with the BBT, because the BBT has their own publications. So Jita Radhi has made some type of a arrangement with Gopal Krishna and Bhima that they will not clash. So Jita Radhi will not sell to a temple. We say we want to order for Radhadesh, we cannot order. But you can order, and you can distribute on yourself to Chinese people, but we can't order in books like here. You can get it probably online. If you read Chinese, you can probably see.
You can get it in BLS.
Pardon?
BLS has Chinese books.
They have Chinese books, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so that if you read Chinese, what I would do, I bought a box of those books. I spent $1,000 on books. I got like 100 Bhagavad Gitas, I made a box of Srimad Bhagavatams in Chinese, a box of Bhagavad Gitas in Chinese. Each one had 20 Bhagavatams, 20 Bhagavad Gitas, and one big box. It had like a combination of the second canto, the third canto, and a tape of Srila Prabhupada's tapes with it all edited so you could read what Prabhupada said in Chinese. So the Chinese can look at the Prabhupada's video and they can read subtitles in Chinese and know exactly what Prabhupada says. So when they have classes, when Jayapataka Maharaj, Kavi Chandra Maharaj, Giridhari Maharaj, Chandrasekhar Prabhu, when they are in China, Radha Charan, they can just show the video and and go over what Prabhupada said and then stop the video and give classes like this. And they have translator. Translator helps him translate. So even you don't speak Chinese, you can go and preach in China. What is it? Umapati became very big in China. And I asked Maharaj, I went and visited him in Mayapur. I said, how did you become so successful? Because no one was more successful than Umapati. And he said, well, I just followed what Prabhupada did with us at 2nd Avenue. He said, but I took Prabhupada's position. What Prabhupada did, I did. Like I was, what I saw Prabhupada do, and it worked. And he got many, many, many people, and those people, more of the richest people are his disciples. And then there's one devotee now in China, in America, his name is Sakhi Mahidi, and he's works with ISKCON and Maharaj together and it was all cooperated to actually get more of the Chinese people. And plus, Narayana Maharaj's people are preaching there, using Srila Prabhupada's books and using these books. Devotees in Singapore, his name is Sundar Gopal Prabhu in Singapore. He established the Singapore preaching. The government told him he couldn't establish Hare Krishna because the South Indians were very upset and they didn't want Gaudiya Vaishnavaism in Singapore, so they told him he could only register as Sri Krishna Mandir. He couldn't register as ISKCON. So I've met them, I've gone there and met them, and they have Bhagavad Gita every night, and men, maybe 50 or 60 men come every night to hear Bhagavad Gita, and they've been doing it for 20-something years. So he has got so many people involved in reading Srila Prabhupada's books, but they're Riddhiks. They don't accept any acharya other than Prabhupada. But they preach in China. They also preach in China. And the more I look on the more I look on Facebook, the more I see her going into China. So China is exploding right now from Krishna consciousness. This whole SARS and this whole coronavirus has checked everything, though. I think it's all just stopped, like a clock that hasn't been wound. It's just like that. And will it wind up? That's up to the government. If the government wants to wind us up again, then we wind up. We just follow whatever the government asks us to do. We don't oppose them because they have to manage the country. So I know a lot of devotees that are Chinese. They go to Mayapur. On their Facebook page, they say, where do I live? They say, I live in Mayapur. They don't say they're Chinese, but they're all Chinese. And they can't go back to China because, I don't know, they're afraid to go back to China. And then they do Kirtan in Mayapur to pray for the help of the movement there. So this is what's going on. When I was there, they knew I was Hare Krishna. I was there in Christmas. They knew I was Hare Krishna. They told me I had to stay in a certain area. I couldn't leave that area. And I could only go to a doctor to have some dental work done and back to that area. And my friend told me, don't go walking around all over the place. It's better just to sit into the house. Don't go out walking around. Because when I had already walked all over the place when I first got there and I got lost. I walked 12 miles in one day. I got up at 5 in the morning and just went out walking. And by 1 or 2, I finally found my way back. But it was just like by Krishna's arrangement. I found it back by the navigational part of the phone. I knew basically I was in a southeast section, and so I just kept looking, where's southeast, and I kept following that direction and trying to, can I take a bus this way? And then I find I'm going the opposite direction and get off and go back the other way.
Was that in Beijing?
Pardon?
Was that in Beijing?
No, it was in Shyam the first day I got there. So I was like, this being stuck in one place, to me, this is the 3rd or 4th time it's happened. It happened in China, it happened in Korea. When I got to America, basically it happened because I had to unload my whole house, and now it's here. And this is the best place. I mean, here it's wonderful. I think I died with I feel like now I've already died, and then and I've just been given a spot just before a waiting room before I'm taken completely away. I really feel like that here. I do. But then I get tied up in things that and I become a little confused, so sometimes I don't come to the class because my mind's agitated. We have readings at night. Sometimes I can come, sometimes I can't. Sometimes I'm just too agitated to do it, But that's just the mind, I find that in my horoscope, Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays are the best. And Sunday. So if it's a Sunday, I know everything's going to be good. If it's a Monday, good. Today is a Thursday, fantastic. ACBSP, oh, wonderful. It's no problem today. Not at all. I just have to watch out for Monday. Because Monday and Saturday is also Shani. Shani is Saturn. Saturn. So what I do every Shani is I actually chant Shani mantra. That you can get, and in Shani, if you chant Shani mantra, he will not give you any trouble. The horoscope said with me, he said it's like an old man and a little girl in the same room. Because the old man is Jupiter and the little girl is Venus. So I have Venus and Jupiter in my chart right now. So it's like it's always a kind of sometimes uncomfortable situation because I'm like with children or something, but I'm old. So the horoscope, the tree card said, so you will have lots of problems like this. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Oh, there's no way.
You don't find it anymore.
No, it is not.
So today I will drill it out.
There's no way that it's.
And see if I can put another lock on it.
I want it.
Yeah.
I hope I want it. If someone else had the key, they open it up and pick the money.
I wouldn't be surprised for that.
But we'll see. Let's see what happens.
Now you drill it out.
That's why I have to open it. I have to find out whether it is money or not. There's no money.
No,
I can still get money because Trump is giving two checks. Doesn't have to go to work and not have to leave the house. So I've already told my friends that as soon as that check arrives, photograph it, send me the photograph, I will take it to the bank to get it cash. I don't know how much it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I know that's probably within a week or so.
Yeah. Because usually the guy who do it is right now, when I start the congregation, there are some 900 centers all over the world. Every country is 1 or 2% of the vibration.
Jesus said, I have 10,000 disciples, but we have 3,000 people.
But and then I said, so that in every country around the world, except China, usually I say it's not true.
Where we're not is Vietnam. Not in Vietnam. We're not in North Korea. We're not in Cambodia. And we're not in New Guinea.
Where?
New Guinea.
New Guinea.
It's like Tiki,
Not the United.
Guam, we're in because Guam has an American base. So we're very fixed. We can say that we even have like membership going on. Well, I checked everywhere there's devotees.
Thanks for all this information. Yes, I was not aware of that. I thought we had nothing in China.
No, we have lots. But the thing is,
yes, you have to.
it's hard to, and you go to one, and then that person will take you to the next place, and that person will take you to that place. And that
Yes.
you just can't. You have to have someone open the door.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I go from where I live. If I take a car, an hour and a half, maybe less, because now we go under the bay. Before we had to go around it. Now they have a road right under the bay, and right into the city. And that devotee has a copy of it, and he's studied from Ramdev, the yoga guru. He does all the health foods and everything. He's a very famous copy of which he is actually a certificate from him with his picture with him. So the city, the government, well, he's an official yoga teacher.
Yes.
He's got a yoga. He's not just this guy. He's also he has a, and he's right next to an herb shop. So he recommends herbs, and they go next door and buy it from the government herb shop. So that they're just like, they're part of the city. Like, it's like, and there's like this ice cream shop, the herb shop, the yoga shop, the art gallery, the park where they do the yoga. When they do the yoga in the morning, all the people watch them do the yoga, and then they sit and chant. And they lay books out. If people want them, they can't hand them to them. People have to come in and hand it to them. They can't go up and say, here, I want to give you this. They lay it out and chant, and then people come up and look, and they say, would you like? And don't take money. But the people, you can come to our yoga class, and when they come to the yoga class, they all pay money to join the yoga class. They take, when I was there with Cubby Chanda, we did a yoga seminar for 3 days. And I couldn't believe how much he was able to speak Bhagavad Gita. He did the first 3 chapters on each day. The first chapter, second chapter, third chapter. And by the 3rd chapter, he had them all chanting. Yeah, and plus we're doing Kirtan and chanting one round together. And later I said, Maharaj, this is amazing. He said, yeah, you can do it too. But some of the devotees don't like the Maharaj did that because he's initiated by small Krishna. So he said, you can't give him second. He said, he has to get second. He can't get second because he's rooted. You only have. So there's always some argument about, okay, if I don't get the second, then how do I keep him engaged? How do I make sure he's coming around? Because he made a mistake when he first came to China, and he started preaching to people, and then the government was after him. So he got on buses, he took buses all the way to the call border, and tried to sneak out of China because he was trying to go across the nation of Nepal. He got into Nepal. He was in Nepal, and then he decided he wanted to get into India. Something happened, he couldn't go to India, so he tried to go back to China. They arrested him and put him in jail for 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah, I think he got out after 2 years. This boy that lives near my house, his name is Gopi Das. He's on Facebook. If you have Facebook,
He's from where?
he's from Shenzhou. This is in China. He's small Christian disciple first, and Kavi Chanda said. And then he told me, he said, yeah, I made a big mistake. And him and some other devotees, other Mahadi, got arrested, and that guy's in New York. And he came to visit me in Bangkok. He said, I heard you're across the cycle, I want to talk to you. And I took him out to a vegetarian restaurant, and he sat and talked. And then he told me, he's a really nice kid, I really liked him. Really nice kid. And then I tried to keep contact with him. I did keep contact with him for a year or two, and then right now I've lost contact with both of them, but I can get it, like, eventually, you know. It's like you had to, Kavi Chandra accepts my Facebook, and I'll get all the people on his group, and all those boys are in his group. You know, so eventually I'll see their page, and then I can talk to them directly. But you know, I'm not going to go there. I don't really want to talk to them in China because I don't want. We don't want to do anything right now in China. Just wait for them to tell us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram I don't know.